Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Loving obeisances unto the Supreme Being Vasudeva, who is everything there is. Janmadyasya yato anvayaditaratascha artheshu abhigyasvarat. Tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah. Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo amrisha. Dhamna swena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. We meditate upon the transcendent absolute being from whom springs forth this universe. He is present in all that exists and yet distinct from everything. He is fully conscious and totally independent. He revealed to the first seer Brahma the import of Vedic wisdom. The material creation, made of threefold gunas, appears in him as though real, like water in a mirage. Being eternally self effulgent, he is ever free of the illusion Maya of the material world. We meditate upon him, the Supreme Being. Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam shukamukad amritadrava sanyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O devotees who relish a taste for divine love, Bhagavatam is the fully ripened fruit of the wish-yielding tree of Vedas, flowing as immortal nectar from Shuka Brahma Rishi. Go on drinking the sweet nectar day after day. So we are now in the 30th chapter of the 4th Skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam. We saw the beautiful instructions given by Narada to the king Prachina Barhi. Meanwhile, we also saw that his sons, the Prachetas, were instructed by Lord Shiva, and accordingly they did austerities in the lake where they got the darshan of Shiva. So now Vidura asks about the sons now that he got to know of the king attaining liberation through the grace of Narada, he wanted to know what happened to the sons. So he asks Maitreya. Vidura says, what did the sons do after being blessed by Lord Shiva? It is a great fortune that they were able to get the darshan, the vision of Lord Shiva, and instructed by him on the right way to pray to Sri Hari. So having gotten this blessing, what did they do? What grace did they win? Because certainly it is a great benediction to be able to get the darshan of Shiva, who is dear to Lord Narayana, who are non-different, and therefore what did they achieve after that? So this question was now asked by Vidura and answered by Maitreya. Maitreya says, so after meeting Shiva and getting his blessings according to the commands given by their father, which was to go and do austerities in order to have children in the right way, and also being instructed by Lord Shiva, they went on to carry the austerities in the lake for many years. They decided to settle right there in the lake where they met Lord Shiva, well outside the kingdom in a foresty area, and there they were able to engage in tapas, in austerities for many years. And after many years of tapas, they were able to now behold the wonderful form of Supreme Lord Narayana himself, the eternal Supreme Being, appeared there, manifesting in his divine transcendental form, which we have seen before as well, being described beautifully when Dhruva got that darshan, and before that when Brahma got the darshan. Now the same darshan is given to Prachetas. So they see the Lord coming on the shoulders of the divine bird Garuda, the eagle, and he is there in the color of a dark cloud, wearing yellow silk, wearing a beautiful gem of Kaustuba on his neck, wearing a garland of forest flowers, Vanamala, wearing a beautiful crown, and having his four main accessories of Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, that is the conch, the Sudarshana wheel, the mace, and the lotus flower, and having the beautiful features and a lovely, graceful smile, the way he always manifests the Supreme Lord in the most divine transcendental form. He manifests there in front of the Prachetas, and the Prachetas are completely choked with emotion as Sri Narayana, the Supreme Being, speaks to them in a voice like a rumbling of clouds. So it is always said that whenever the Supreme Being speaks, the voice is like the clouds are rumbling. It's a very deep voice. And in this voice, he addresses them and he says, O Prachetas, you have done great penance, and therefore I am very pleased, and you can ask me any boon. If you remember, the same was offered to the king Prithu as well. And Prithu Maharaj, he said, I don't want any boon except having 10,000 years so that I can hear your praises all the time. So now we will see what boon the Prachetas ask. He says you can ask any boon. And then he goes on to say, the Lord says that because you've all been with such brotherly affection and together performed austerities, he says, for all of us, for anyone who listens, he says, anyone who listens to this story of you brothers doing these austerities and getting my divine vision, just listening to the story will fill the listeners with brotherly affection toward all living beings. And also the prayer that you were taught by Lord Shiva, just remembering that prayer or reciting that prayer will purify the intellect of anyone who listens to it. So we saw that prayer in detail a couple of chapters back, Lord Shiva teaching them the right way to pray to the Supreme Being Vasudeva, a prayer that both glorifies and at the same time instructs on the knowledge of the self and the way to be free of the false attachment to I and mine. So it's both a prayer and a teaching, and that is what Lord Shiva instructed. And so the Supreme Lord here says that just remembering that prayer will purify the intellect, and because you have executed the command of your father, you are very blessed. So to be able to have auspicious parents and follow their instructions is a very blessed thing. Of course, on the other hand, if the one's own parents are in the way of devotion, then it's okay to disregard them. And this has been shown also in Bhagavatam. We see the story of Prahalad who goes against his very father because he is an obstacle to devotion. We see Bharata who goes against his very mother Kaikeyi because his mother is doing something that is not correct and that is against Lord Ram. So one can disregard one's own parents if they are not conducive to devotion. At the same time, if the parents are conducive, then to listen to their command is very auspicious, and that's what these boys have done. And so the Lord blesses them and says, he says, your father has instructed you to go marry and beget children. So accordingly, there is a sage called Kandu who has a beautiful daughter. And so she was, it says, symbolically raised by trees because she is so fond of nature. And this beautiful girl who is so fond of nature and who is raised by trees, born to the sage Kandu, will be the right wife, and through her you can have children. So here, interestingly, just as the Pandavas, 5 brothers, married the same woman Draupadi, here also the 10 brothers are instructed to marry the same woman. This is a practice that's found even today in some tribes, and so this was also prevalent in some parts even in ancient times, and this is seen not just in Mahabharata but even in other places such as this where the Prachetas marry the same woman. And the Lord says that by marrying her and having because she is also very conducive to austerities and she is very devoted, daughter of a sage, you will have a very harmonious married life, and all the impurities of the heart will be completely gone through devotion to me, and you will not have any interest in worldly pleasures which are like hell, and you will effortlessly ascend to the divine abode after you leave the body. And then the Lord says as summary, the essence of all this is that those who are doing actions dedicated to me and those whose time is spent in talking about me, they are not in any bondage even if they are living the life of a householder. So this is the very essence given by Bhagavatam over and over. One doesn't have to leave any place and go anywhere, because one can leave and go to a forest and still engage in worldly talks and other concerns. Instead, one can live in the house or live wherever one is and engage the mind completely in a divine consciousness, both by dedicating all activities that are necessary to be done as an offering to the Supreme Being with no attachment to the sense of doership or the results, and as well as spending the other time in the teachings and the glories of the Supreme Being. And such life will not automatically remove any sense of bondage no matter where one lives. So he says, Griheshu avashitam chapi pumsam kushala karmanam mad vartayatayamanam na bandhaya grihamataha. So one who is engaged in talks about me, no matter where he lives, and one who is engaged in activities that are surrendered unto me, he is never in bondage. So this is the instruction given to Prachetas and to all of us, because the Lord concludes by saying that one who remembers me and offers all actions unto me, he feels my presence in his heart ever fresh. It is ever fresh, like a beautiful flower in the heart that is constantly fresh by the abidance of one's intellect and mind and all the faculties in the remembrance of the Supreme Being. So, by engaging all the faculties, both the subtle and the gross faculties, that is, the subtle faculties of mind, intellect, and even the sense of I-ness, and the gross faculty of the body and the senses and the energy, all of it, if it is engaged in serving the Supreme Being, and serving the Supreme Being can be in many ways. One can serve the Supreme Being by serving all living entities who are parts of the same Supreme Being. As we see again and again, everything is part of the one cosmic form, the Supreme Being, and therefore, just as serving a part of a body serves the whole body, serving any living entity serves the whole Supreme Truth. And therefore, with that attitude, with that knowledge that serving the part serves the whole, and the part is non different from the whole, and therefore not serving any living entity as a separate individual, but by seeing them as a part of the one truth that is indivisible, and thereby serving them without any expectation, one can live in activities too in the mode of service, and then also talking about this and remembering this, and thereby engaging all of one's faculties in service. This is the essence of Bhagavatam or Bhagavata Seva. And so the Lord instructs Prachetas to live like this and be free. And therefore, then Maitreya says that hearing these beautiful words of the Supreme Being, the Prachetas were completely moved and their voice was choked with emotion, and they addressed a beautiful prayer. They said, Hail to you, O Supreme Lord, Namo Namaha. You remove all afflictions. Your excellent virtues and names are declared as the source of all blessings, and you are incomprehensible to mind or speech. You are faster than anything, and your approach is therefore beyond all the senses. That's why he is called Adhokshaja, one who is beyond all the senses. You cannot be grasped by the senses, by the mind, by speech, or any faculty. You are unconditioned and serene. They say, Shuddhaya, Shantaya, Namak Swanishtaya, Manasya Partham, Velasadvayaya. Beautiful verse again. Shuddhaya means you are unconditioned and pure. Shantaya, ever serene and peaceful, ever established in your essential nature, Swanishtaya, and in whom duality appears falsely due to mind. So this is the other important aspect that Bhagavatam again and again says, that the whole experience of duality is not separate from the Lord. It is only an appearance in the one Supreme Being, and yet the Supreme Being is untouched by it. So it is like how the waves appear in the ocean, but the ocean is untouched by the waves. Similarly, these dualities are simply appearing in the Supreme Being, which is pure consciousness, and yet he is unaffected by it. Therefore, they say, O pure one, Hari, one who ends the cycle of birth and death, O Krishna Vasudeva, we offer our obeisances. They say, Namo Vishuddha Sattvaya Haraye Harimedhase Vasudevaya Krishnaya Prabhave Sarva Sattvatam. That is, O Vasudeva, ever present and all abiding, omniscient, omnipresent Supreme Being Krishna, the Lord of all devotees, Sri Hari, one who removes all sufferings, we offer our obeisances unto you. Then they also say another beautiful verse, very poetic. They say, "Oh, you are one with like a lotus from your navel. Your garland is adorned with lotuses. Your feet are like lotus, and your eyes are like lotus." So this verse, I'll first read the verse. Namah Kamala Nabhaya, Namah Kamala Maline, Namah Kamala Padaya, Namaste Kamalekshana. So this is again very similar to the verse that Kunti prays to Krishna. She says, as we may recall, Namah Pankaja Nabhaya, Namah Pankaja Maline, Namah Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. Pankaja and Kamala both mean lotus. So here the word Kamala is used. Namah Kamala Nabhaya, Namah Kamala Maline, Namah Kamala Padaya, Namaste Kamalekshana. Then they say, O Lord, you are clad in stainless yellow robes, and you are the abode of all creatures, and you are the witness of everyone too. Those. So they say, Sarvabhuta Nivasaya Sakshine. That is, all beings exist in you. So we see that's why mystical that he exists in all beings and all beings exist in him. That is, in the cosmic form, what is called Virat Rupa, which we have seen described. The whole universe, manifest universe, is the body of the Supreme Lord. That is, the entire creation is one indivisible, interconnected entity. And that entity is the very form, manifest form of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, every living entity exists in him, in his divine form. And yet, within each living entity is the pure consciousness, as the form of pure consciousness, which animates every living entity. He is in the heart of everyone. Therefore, he is in everyone and everyone is in him. And so the Prachetas offer their salutations to him, and they say, your form you have revealed, and therefore what more boon can we ask? So now they are answering this question. Prithu answered it in a certain way. Prachetas will now answer. They say, again, just like Prithu, they say, what boon can we even ask? Because you have given your darshan, your vision, and having seen you, what can we ask? You are the inner controller of all beings, even up to the most insignificant small ant. Everyone's inner controller is you, and therefore you know exactly what is sought by everyone, and therefore what can we ask you? So this is an important instruction too for people, because many times people go to temples and so on, or other religious places, churches and so on, and they ask for various desires. And if we recognize that he is all knowing, if we truly realize that the Supreme Being is all knowing, then he knows all our desires. So why would we even ask him that he already knows? In fact, there are people who go and offer prayers giving their name and their family name and their lineage and their star and all the rest. This is all based on this conception that he is separate and I am separate, and there is this attitude of desire which is not true devotion or true surrender. So that's why the Prachetas say, you know everything. And therefore, when we go to temple too, or when we go to any place of worship, we don't have to go even. But if we go, we can go to simply celebrate the Supreme Being, to be in association with devotees, and to surrender unto him fresh every moment. So every moment is an opportunity to freshly surrender, and thereby we can even renew that sense of surrender in a place of worship. But beyond that, to ask for any desire is to be in ignorance. So that's why Prachetas say, you know all the things we desire, any, not just we, even the smallest ant, whatever desire it has, you know it. So why should we even ask you anything? And then they say, because you tell us we will ask only one thing. And again, this is not something he wouldn't know, but they just say it out of love. They say, the only thing we ask is we want to be always in the company of your devotees. So just as Prithu said, I want to only hear your praises, Prachetas offer a beautiful prayer. They say, Ta bhavat prasanganam sangaha syan no bhave bhave. They say, not just this lifetime, if you are meant to have multiple lifetimes, we don't care. As long as we are in the presence of your devotees, we are in your presence. So it doesn't matter whether we are here or whether we are in some divine realm. As long as we are in the presence of your devotees, that is the most divine realm in reality. Because such a place, they say, is free of enmity and free of any anxiety of any kind. They say, Nirvairam yatra bhuteshu na udvego yatra kaschana. There is no enmity and there is no anxiety of any kind in a place like that, because the very presence of your devotees and the very singing of your praises and the truth of your teachings, or the exposition of your knowledge, the self knowledge, wherever this happens, there can be no enmity, there can be no anxiety. And that's why Krishna also says in the Gita that such a person is dear to me. He says, this word udvega, it's used here. So in Bhagavad Gita 2, in the 12th chapter, Krishna says, Yasmano dujate loko lokano dujate chayah harsha marsha bayodvegair muktahyaha sacha me priyaha. He says, one who is free of this udvega, this anxiety and fear and excitement and envy, impatience, all of these qualities, one who is free of these is a true devotee. And the flip side is also true. That's what this prayer says, that one who is a devotee is free of these things. So the easiest way to be free of these things is to be in the company of devotees, satsanga. So the benediction offered by Krishna and Gita, that one who is dear to me is free of these things, is obtained by being with those who are already free of these things. So that's why Prachetas say, being in the company of your devotees automatically bestows these qualities, and thus it makes us dear to you, and through that we directly perceive your presence right there. They say, Yatra Narayanaha Sakshad Bhagavan Nyasinam Gatihi. Nyasi means a sannyasi, nyasi both mean the same. Those who are renunciates. Nyasinam Gatihi means the goal of all the renunciates is Bhagavan Narayana, which is the pure being. He is present right there where your glories are sung. That is, you are present where your glories are sung, where self-knowledge is discussed, where your pastimes are discussed. And therefore, all we want in lifetime after lifetime, if we are meant to have many lifetimes, is to simply be in a place where always your devotees are present and your glories are sung. So this is the most beautiful prayer and boon they ask for, because they say, how can one who is intelligent ever not be interested in the meeting of devotees of yours? Because that is the easiest way and the most intelligent way to be free of all the impurities of the heart and be ever abiding in you. So then they conclude by saying, we have already, simply by a moment's association with Lord Shiva, been able to get this great benediction of getting your darshan and your boon. So Lord Shiva appeared there, who is dear to Narayana, non-different from him, and he taught them a prayer. And by that association, they are able to get the association now directly of the Supreme Lord. So they say that this is already the proof that just getting association with those who talk about you is enough for us. And then they say another important thing, that whatever we have done so far, whether we have done anything we have done right, whether it is to our teachers or our elders or our brothers or our parents or whatever it may be, whatever austerities we have done, may everything be simply to please you. In other words, this is the right attitude, that no matter what things we have done or we are doing or we are yet to do, it is not for any personal goal. So if we have a personal sense of doing there, it results in consequences. There is still the sense of I and mine, I and my activities, and so on, and therefore it has its own results. It is being of sattvic quality will give good results, and yet it will keep one in bondage. So, to be free of even the bondage of good activities, one has to offer all good activities as well as an offering to the Supreme Lord. So, that's what they say, that we offer everything we have done and we are yet to do, all austerities and all pious activities, everything to you, because you are the only goal of all beings and nobody can perceive your glory. Therefore, we can only say this much based on whatever limited understanding we have. So we simply hail you, O Supreme Lord, O Vasudeva. Namaste. They finally conclude by saying in a beautiful prayer, Namah Samaya Shuddhaya Purushaya Paraya Cha Vasudevaya Satvaya Tubhyam Bhagavate Namaha. Every word again, Samaya means same. The word English word same, again we can see, comes from the Sanskrit word Sama. Sama means same, one who is same to all. Shuddhaya, one who is ever pure. Purushaya, one who is the original being. Parayacha, one who is transcendent. Vasudevaya, the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, who is ever present. Satvaya, one who is ever pure and situated in pure goodness. Tubhyam Bhagavate Namaha. To you, O Supreme Lord, we offer our obeisances. So, hearing this beautiful prayer, Sri Hari smiled and said, Let it be so. So, this is the beautiful benediction he gives Kunti too. If you remember, when Kunti offers a beautiful prayer and says that only thing I want is to always remember you, and even if it means we get suffering after suffering, I accept it as the greatest benediction as long as it brings me your memory, and I always want to be in your memory. And Krishna says very simply, be it so. And he goes. Here too, the same thing, the Supreme Lord Sri Hari tells the Prachetas, be it so. And that's all that is needed. Then, after the Supreme Being disappears from there, the Prachetas came out of that lake, and then they found the lady that is mentioned, the daughter of the sage Kandu, among the trees, and then they go on to marry her, and then they have one son first, and it is said that it is Daksha himself. We saw the story of Daksha in the very beginning of this Skandha, where Daksha was a Prajapati, the son of Brahma, who had many daughters, one of whom was married to Shiva, the last daughter Sati, and he insulted Shiva, and because of that he was punished. We saw that beautiful story. So this Daksha, it is said, after that died, and he was reborn as the son of the Prachetas, and he was very good with all rituals. That's what Daksha is known for. Even in that past life, we saw that Daksha was doing all kinds of fire sacrifices. We already saw in the last chapter, Narada, that's why I describe how all these rituals only keep one caught in bondage, and therefore the highest ritual, the highest prayer, the highest wisdom is to surrender unto the Supreme Being as the only doer and not be caught in rituals. So that's what Prachetas were also blessed with in this chapter. And they had the son Daksha, who was also attached to rituals, and now he is born as their son. And the word Daksha literally means again dexterous. So the English word dexterous can be very closely seen as very close to the word Daksha, because Daksha literally means one who is very skillful or dexterous, and that's what he is. And he is born to the Prachetas, and he eventually gets installed as the Prajapati again by Brahma, and thereby the progeny or the descendants continue. And with this, we see the Prachetas in this chapter being beautifully blessed by the Supreme Lord and asking the most beautiful prayer of the only thing that they desire is the association of the Supreme Lord. And with that prayer and being blessed to have that benediction, they are blessed, and they then go on to become the rulers of the kingdom because their father has now left, and they have this beautiful wife, very auspicious and austere wife, and they have a son now, and they continue to rule. With this chapter ends, And with the next chapter, we will conclude the story of the Prachetas. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.